On July 14, 2003, the government of the United States of America finally revealed the truth about a place that has been a source of great distress for many people. This place is Area 51. Today, I'm going to share some stories from a series of urban legends and creepypasta. First, I want to start with a particularly creepy Area 51 project called Abigail. This story goes back to 1943, when Area 51 was called the Indiana Springs Air Force Auxiliary Airfield. But rumors of more than just flying were growing at an astonishing rate. The media of the time tried to photograph Area 51 inside, but security in the area was immense, with hundreds of military trucks guarding the area. The journalists came up with a plan. Since they were outside Area 51, they managed to get some photos of the officers who were patrolling along the fence. Then they found the officers' homes and offered them a lot of money. This got them some information. It was about a young and beautiful girl named Abigail Wester. She was the daughter of one of the most respected scientists in Area 51, Major Albert Wester. During World War II, the United States believed that Hitler's great achievements were due to constant scientific experimentation. In this regard, the Americans believed that they needed to develop a completely new kind of man, a kind of universal soldier, something like Captain America in real life. However, as you understand, those who agreed to give their body to science and turn into a lab rat were not found. Then, Albert Wester offered for the role of test subject his own daughter Abigail, a beautiful university student, who began to dive headlong into the business of her father and Area 51. Father and daughter believed so fiercely in the success of the upcoming experiment that they were not even confused by the high dose of radiation to which Abigail was to be exposed. The preparations were not thought about for long. Albert Wester began the experiment immediately. However, soon fellow scientists advised Abigail's father to stop the experiment as the girl's face began to deform and mutate. Her teeth were growing in strangely. Her fair skin tone had lost its splendor and healthy appearance, and then senile wrinkles began to appear. The never gorgeous hair turned gray and partially fell out. It seemed time to end the experiment. "Albert, that's your own daughter." But there was no stopping him. Besides, he said the experiment had to be completed. There was no other way. Otherwise, Abigail would die. And Abigail herself was begging to continue. She believed fanatically in her father's experiment. The theory was that if all the experiments were completed, the subject would live. The fanatical scientist, by some miracle, convinced the management not to close the project, and for many years, he continued to conduct experiments on his daughter. According to information that leaked to the press, the staff of Area 51 constantly carried a huge amount of food to the door of the cell where the test subject was kept, because the usual portions could not satiate the creature that used to be a nice girl. Some claimed that Albert spent many hours in this cell, talking for long periods of time, receiving muffled growls in response, and then crying. Others claimed that Abigail had gone completely insane and her body had become monstrous. She was nearly 3 meters tall, her bones elongated, her humanity lost. She looked more like a wild animal now. Everyone claimed the experiment was a complete failure. But Albert was determined that his experiment would succeed. But the pressure from fellow scientists and management continued to mount. The United States Army was not ready to waste so much money without seeing the end result in the form of a superhuman. All they saw was a monster with the mindset and instincts of a beast. The funding was cut off, and Albert committed suicide 4 years after the Abigail Project was launched. However, he left a farewell letter asking that his daughter's life be spared. The staff of the area did not destroy Abigail, but because of the funding, the conditions of detention and security had to be reduced. After a while, from the cell began to come terrible screams and even shrieks. And soon, Abigail escaped, killing 2 guards in the process. They say the shots didn't do her any harm. After her escape, the monster lurked, and to avoid new victims, it was decided to cordon off the area where she was supposedly located. An equally creepy urban legend is based on the story of a fired Area 51 employee. This employee told the world about a frightening experiment that took place at the most secure military base in the United States. For the experiment, they needed 10 boys and 1 girl. Children were allowed to be recruited only from the streets. Even from orphanages were forbidden to take, so as not to violate the secrecy. The girl's brain was injected with a sample of extraterrestrial origin. It was an organic parasite that fed on gray matter. In the spinal cord, the gray matter is located around the central canal, so the parasite grew rapidly to reach this gray matter. It is also interesting that as the parasite grew, the subject's brain function increased. The boys were dropped off in a room in front of a large screen. They were blindfolded, and then a girl was brought into the room. The results of the test shocked everyone. The girl could not only read the boys' minds, but could also display them on the screen without the use of technical means. The results of the blood test were also very surprising. Her white blood cell count had almost halved, while her platelet count had increased several times. The former scientist also added that he did not know the fate of these children. He was given a non-disclosure agreement. He was not suitable to work there because he was highly emotional. He was prevented from further experimentation. And then he was fired and placed in a psychiatric clinic so that if he leaked, no one would believe him. He's been in the clinic for 2 years now, and he's well aware that it's hard for other people to believe what he's told. The next legend will be related to an alien captured by humans and located in Area 51. A man calling himself Victor managed to smuggle in a videotape with a recording of the interrogation of the gray alien. The first information about this tape appeared on March 13, 1997. It appeared on the radio show Art Bell, in which professional ufologist Sean David Morton was interviewed. In that program, he stated that the material was fresh, dating back to 1996. And Bob Dean, his interlocutor and a well-known UFO expert, insisted that the tape be examined. After Victor managed to get his hands on the videotape, he wished it to be shown on network television as soon as possible. After all, Victor knew that if the authorities were able to identify him, he would be killed, which would help authenticate the tape. Victor sent out offers to many television stations. At first there were negotiations with Fox TV, but it refused due to the impossibility of authenticating the footage. But in July 1996, Victor managed to find an independent company. It was Rocket Home Pictures Production. After that, the producers of the channel asked Morton to comment on the movie. After the screening, Morton explained in detail what he had learned. See, the movie was shot through a thick layer of glass. Note that there are no accompanying sounds. The interrogation was conducted in a darkened room that was lit by a green glow. I could make out 2 men, one wearing a military uniform, the other sloppily dressed. They had their backs to the camera on the edge of a long table that was furnished with microphones. I also noticed that they had some medical devices in their hands. Opposite them sat a small creature with dark eyes, a large head, and brown skin. Morton kept referring to the alien visitor's unhealthy appearance and condition. Yes, indeed, the alien was swinging all the time. Apparently, he was in a bad way. His skin was a pinkish beige color, but for some reason part of his head was purple, like his skull was bruised. Toward the end of the tape, the creature kept going into violent convulsions. Its mouth was opening and closing for some reason. At the end, it was foaming at the mouth. After that, the doctors came running to him, and that's when the tape stopped. Everyone had a different opinion about the validity of the tape. Some believed it, some didn't. It is also worth noting that on the video there is an inscription, DNI 27, which is displayed in the lower strip of the frame. Most likely it is a coded time and date. The letters stand for the Ministry of Naval Intelligence. It was representatives of this institution who were part of the team responsible for Area 51. The best source for determining the authenticity of the tape was a man named Victor, who of course did not want to tell about himself for fear of being killed. Jeff Broadstreet, a TV producer, knows how Victor managed to get the tape from the military base. According to him, Victor made a copy of the materials because at that time there were works on digitizing analog tapes in which this mysterious Victor was involved. Then he also removed the soundtrack to hide the identities of the people who conducted the interrogation. Well, that's enough urban legends for today. Do not forget to rate the video and of course subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for your attention and see you in the next video.